It was supposed to be just another quiet Saturday morning, the kind of morning where the world feels a little softer, a little slower, and you can actually hear yourself think. I had my coffee machine humming in the background, the dog snoring on the couch, and sunlight spilling through the blinds. That's when I heard it, the crunch of heavy shoes on my gravel path. Not the friendly shuffle of a delivery guy, not the paper boy, but something heavier, deliberate. And sure enough, when I peeked through the blinds, there was the mailman, walking all the way up to my door with a single beige envelope. Now, I don't know about you, but beige envelopes never bring joy. They're like little cardboard bombs of bad news. Bills, legal threats, jury duty, you name it. And this one, as soon as I saw the return address, I knew my weekend was about to die a painful death. It was from the Meadow Ridge Homeowners Association. Yeah, the fun police. Inside was a letter so thick with legal jargon, you could smell the printer ink trying to act important. It said my brand new fence, the one I had spent a month designing and building, was non-compliant. Non-compliant because, get this, it wasn't continuous, opaque, and earth-toned. My fence was a white picket fence, the kind you see in movies, the kind that keeps your dog safe without making your yard look like a prison. But to them, it was a crime against beige. And the letter wasn't just signed by anyone. It was signed by her, Marjorie Swainson, president of the HOA, neighborhood hawk, and part-time destroyer of joy. I'd had one run-in with her before when she marched onto my lawn with a tape measure, measured my grass, and told me it was a 1/4 inch too high. No hello. No. Welcome to the neighborhood. Just a diagnosis like she was the grim reaper of turf. Ever since then, I knew she was waiting for her chance. And apparently, that chance was my picket fence. I tried to be reasonable. I really did. I called her. I thought maybe she'd explain. Maybe we'd find a compromise. But the phone call was like arguing with a robot programmed to say the bylaws are the bylaws. She actually told me my fence caused visual disruption. Visual disruption. Like it was a strobe light at a rave instead of just wood painted white. I even sent her an email with pictures of beautiful neighborhoods across America with white picket fences. Try to make my case that it was classic, traditional, part of our culture. Her response? A PDF attachment of approved earth tones. 5 shades of beige and one that looked like wet cardboard. It was like she curated a paint palette straight from a DMV waiting room. And she CC'd the entire HOA board just to flex her power. I was fuming, pacing around my living room while my best friend Nate laughed at me on speakerphone. Dude, he said, why don't you just build her a mud wall? That's earth-toned. And for a second, I actually considered it. But then something else caught my eye. I was scrolling online and saw a picture of a full-size sports car built entirely out of plastic building bricks. You know the ones kids use. Bright colors, perfectly snapped together, solid as a rock. And that's when the light bulb went off. I didn't need to fight her with words. I could fight her with compliance. Malicious, glorious compliance. She wanted continuous, opaque, earth-toned. Fine. I'd give her the most continuous, most opaque, most earth-toned wall she had ever seen. And I'd build it out of 100,000 interlocking plastic bricks. The plan was insane, I'll admit that. It took me 3 days just to figure out where to even buy that many. Ended up sourcing them from a supplier overseas who didn't ask too many questions when I ordered literal tons of bricks in sad brown, moss green, and depressing beige. Then came the real kicker. I needed a foundation. So I called contractors. The first one hung up on me. The second laughed and asked if this was a prank. But the third was a guy named Dave. Big, burly, no nonsense. But when I laid out the blueprints and the HOA letter, he started laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. He slapped the table and said, "Kid, this is art. This is the Mona Lisa of telling someone to shove it. I'm in." When the freight truck pulled up to my street with pallets of cardboard boxes full of bricks, the neighborhood practically came alive. Curtains pulled back, people stood on porches, kids on bikes slowed down just to stare. Even Marjorie's blinds twitched, and I swear I could feel her glaring through the glass. We tore down the old picket fence, poured the concrete, set the rebar, and then began stacking. Brick after brick, click after click, the wall started rising. Nate showed up with a 6-pack, neighbors brought iced tea, and suddenly it wasn't just me and Dave building. It was half the block cheering us on. And the wall looked ridiculous, no question about it. But it was also beautiful in its own stubborn way. Of course, Marjorie didn't stay quiet. She stormed over, clipboard in hand, demanding to know what I was doing. I smiled, pointed to the letter, and told her, "Just following the rules, Marjorie." She squinted at the boxes, trying to figure out what was inside, but she couldn't prove anything yet. By the time the wall reached waist height, she was snapping photos with her phone. By the time it reached 4 feet, she called the police. 2 officers showed up, looked at the wall, then looked at her, and basically said, "Ma'am, taste is not a crime." One of them even knocked on it, heard the solid thud, and shrugged. "Looks pretty sturdy to me." Then they drove off while trying not to laugh. That should have been the end of it, but my neighbor, sweet retired teacher Miss Eleanor, had been filming the whole exchange. She uploaded it online with the caption, "My neighbor is a legend." Within hours, the video went viral. News vans showed up, reporters wanted interviews. People from around the country were leaving comments about how they wished they had a Lego wall in their neighborhood. And then the HOA called an emergency meeting. The whole clubhouse was packed, standing room only. I'd never seen more than 10 people at those things, but this time it was 100, easy. Marjorie rolled out a PowerPoint presentation with pictures of approved fences and dramatic claims about property values, her voice practically shaking with rage. She gestured at me like I was some criminal mastermind. When it was my turn, I didn't bring slides. I just brought a giant foam board with the bylaw printed on it. "Continuous, opaque, and earth-toned," I read out loud. That's all it says. Doesn't say wood, doesn't say vinyl, doesn't say anything about toys. My wall meets every single word. Then I paused and looked at the crowd. But this isn't really about a wall, is it? This is about being fined because your lawn was a 1/4 inch too high. It's about being told your recycling bin sat out too long. It's about forgetting that this board works for us, not the other way around. You could feel the shift in the room. One by one, neighbors started standing up, telling their own stories about petty fines and ridiculous rules. Finally, someone called for a vote. First, to declare my wall compliant, and second, to remove Marjorie as president. Both passed in landslides. Just like that, the reign of beige was over. In the weeks that followed, the wall stayed. In fact, it became something of a landmark. Families would drive by just to take pictures. Kids would sneak over and leave little bricks of their own, like offerings. And for the first time since I moved in, the neighborhood actually felt like a community. I never set out to be a rebel. I just wanted a nice fence for my dog. But what I learned is sometimes you have to push back against pettiness, sometimes you have to get creative, and sometimes the most absurd ideas turn out to be the ones that bring people together. So yeah, I've still got my coffee, my quiet mornings, and my dog-chasing dreams on the couch. But now I've also got a 4-foot wall of plastic bricks that reminds me every day that good fences don't just make good neighbors. Sometimes, the right fence makes legends. Now I've got to ask, if you were in my shoes, would you have fought back, or just painted the fence beige and moved on? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if I was right or wrong. And hey, don't forget to like and share this if you've ever had your own HOA nightmare.